Welcome to the Angus Report, a news program for cattle producers.
From American Angus Association headquarters in St. Joseph, Missouri, we bring you the week's top headlines, including the type of cattle feedlots are seeking.
We review highlights from the Cattlemen's Boot Camp and the recent Young Cattlemen's Conference.
We'll look at some alternative feed solutions for cattlemen affected by drought, and Paige Wallace highlights the National Junior Angus Association.
This is the Angus Report.
Hello, I'm Crystal Albers.
And I'm Bob Cervera. Our top news this week: having adequate hay supplies is critical while producers make plans for winter management. Cattlemen anticipating nutritional needs for their herds could have some tough decisions this winter. USDA currently forecasts U.S. alfalfa production at 16% lower than a year ago and 20% lower than the 5-year average. Production of other hay products is currently projected at 65.4 million tons, slightly below the 65.8 million tons produced last year, but some 12% lower than the 5-year average. USDA data show short supplies of alfalfa hay have significantly impacted prices. The latest national average price for alfalfa hay was quoted at $201 per ton, depending on quality.
The first 30 to 45 days after a calf is weaned can be the most stressful period of its life. Performance and health during this time can influence an efficient and profitable feed out or productive life in the cow herd.
They're going from green grass and mother's milk to transitioning to dry feeds, maybe silages, feeds that they may or may not be accustomed to. And in addition to that, they're changing the environment that they live in. This year with the drought, there's a lot of unusual feed stuff. And I would say that the calves are quite adaptable. They can adapt to a wide variety of feeds, ultimately. But the important thing is to start out with feeds that they're familiar with, whether it's long stem hay that would be similar to the grass that they're fed, or feeds that they've been exposed to through creep feed or supplementation of the cows, and then make that transition over a 2 or 3 week period.
Producers aiming for higher premiums are often mindful of the type of cattle sought by feedlots. Here, Tom Brink of JBS 5 River Cattle Feeding discusses some of the traits ideal for current conditions.
We buy cattle over a wide weight range, but there is an ideal, and for a yearling animal, a yearling steer, we like to buy cattle that really weigh between 700 and 850 pounds. Today, you see a lot of cattle that are just simply heavier than that, and that's okay up to a point, but really, if you get up to 900 pounds and above, you start to see cattle that don't perform as well in the feed yard. On a heifer, you can just basically subtract 75 to 100 pounds. So you get into heifers that weigh much over 8 1/4, aren't just going to perform as well as normal heifers, and so we'd ideally like to buy a heifer that weighs more around 700 pounds, maybe up to 750 or so, but not a lot higher than that. And most feed yards will tell you that same thing. They would prefer to buy a lighter yearling animal versus a heavier yearling animal, just because there's more performance left in that animal as they go into the final finishing phase.
NCBA's Young Cattlemen's Conference offers young cattlemen and women a chance to expand their experiences in the beef cattle business. The Angus Foundation recently sponsored John Widdowson of Lodgepole, Nebraska, to attend the event, open to NCBA members ages 25 to 50.
Probably the biggest and most rewarding thing is, as a rancher and a cow-calf producer from Lodgepole in Arthur, Nebraska, you kind of get consumed with your own life, and you're out there in the middle of the sand hills in what we call God's country, and you think Washington's kind of an untouchable thing, that one voice and one man's opinion really doesn't matter. But walking around Capitol Hill with your cowboy hats on and boots, and that's who we are, you get all those personalities and get all that focused in the right form, and get in front of your congressman centers. It does make an impact.
Cattlemen gathered in Laramie, Wyoming, September 28th and 29th for the popular Cattlemen's Boot Camp, hosted by the American Angus Association in cooperation with the University of Wyoming. Purebred and commercial producers alike received timely information regarding business management, herd health, cow herd nutrition, and much more. The 1.5-day educational series includes informative industry speakers and hands-on labs that assist both beginning and advanced cattlemen and women in bettering their operation. The Angus Foundation funds the Cattlemen's Boot Camps, which are hosted throughout the nation. Visit angus.org to learn more.
A report out of the United Kingdom shows large-scale agricultural operations can contribute to sustainability, including wildlife conservation. In the report from the Rural Economy and Land Use Program, researchers note high-yield production systems are required to meet global food demand, but can also provide suitable wildlife habitats. Study authors suggest looking at the interactions between agriculture and wildlife habitat on a broad scale and the characteristics of the land used by agricultural operations. In many areas, a mix of high-yield intensive farming and land managed for nature can produce both more food and more wildlife than the pursuit of wildlife-friendly farming across the whole landscape. When the Angus Report returns, Paige Wallace brings us information on feed alternatives.
And we'll highlight some young leaders in the National Junior Angus Association.
Visit angus.org to continue watching this episode of the Angus Report.